my mentor told me that if you understand the concept, the details don't matter. And if you don't understand the concept, then the details don't matter. So it's all about the concept, understanding the concept. So when people are like, yeah, this is all looks really good, but I just want to say, I just want to do this, in the next 10 years, not now. They don't understand the concept. When somebody says this all looks really good, but I don't know if I could put in $500 a month, they don't understand the concept.
Empower You podcast is devoted to bringing real-world wisdom and encouragement to our listeners. We discuss a multitude of life principles and the process from an economic, cultural, and societal perspective. We believe that through tough conversations and shared wisdom, we can pave the path and leave a ladder for the future. Subscribe to our channel and let us empower you. Welcome to Empower You podcast. My name is Kid Boy Cooper, and I am so glad that you are here. How you doing?
Hey, K-Boy. Oh.
So for today's interview, we're going to be talking about breaking cycles. And if you're anything like me and you've been listening to the show, I really like to evaluate the things that we know to be normal. Because sometimes what is normal is not necessarily helpful. And so in this interview, we're going to be talking about what that looks like to break cycles, to evaluate whether it's familial trends or just stuff that your family has always done, traditions, so that we can really dig in and grow something new or create change that helps us become a little bit better, get a little bit farther down the road. And so our guest is Sare Ibrahim, who is a financial wizard and has helped multiple clients, including really large names like Blue Cross Blue Shield and Humana and all these other people, really work with their finances. And he's going to talk to us about breaking some cycles, and I cannot wait. So Sare, how you doing, man?
Hey, K-Boy. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited. That's why I interrupted you earlier, because I'm excited to be on your show.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Thank you so much for being here, man. I know you're a busy guy, and I appreciate you taking a little bit of time to discuss this with us, man. It's really going to be great.
Thank you.
So before we get started, I kind of want to get a feel for you, right? We've talked, but I kind of want to hear you talk about yourself a little bit more for our listeners so they get a feel for who you are and what motivates the work that you do.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for that. So kind of a little bit about my background. I started off in the Medicare space, helping a lot of retirees, people who are like 64, 65 years old, merging from their employer plans to their own individually owned Medicare plans. So I was helping them become like a problem solver, helping them make that bridge into their own Medicare plan. And I did this for a couple of years. And as I was doing this, I started to build a relationship with these clients. And at that time, one of my clients asked me if I could help him with life insurance. And he mentioned there's a life insurance product that has cash value. It builds up over time. And I had no idea what he was talking about, but I told him I would do more research for him and I'd get back to him on it. So I went to Amazon and I searched for books about life insurance. And I came across this one book called The Bank on Yourself Revolution by Pamela Yellen. And the book pretty much talks about using this strategy called the Bank on Yourself strategy, also known as the infinite banking concept, and pretty much helps people grow more wealth over time using the same dollars they're already spending, but to kind of reposition them. And as I'm reading this book, I'm like, this is not only helpful for retirees and people looking for to retire soon. It's pretty much helpful for anybody who uses cash on a daily basis. It's pretty much anybody who makes money and wants to grow that money over time. And then that's when I founded the company Financial Asset Protection. And I was like, this is going to be the main niche we're going to use. It's going to be the Bank on Yourself strategy. And a lot of our clients are real estate investors, business owners, and full-time employees. And we pretty much help them grow cash reserves while still having access to them over time. So we're not locking up money. We're still using it over and over again. That's pretty much who we are, what we do, and kind of some of my background behind that.
That's really, really cool. I'll be honest. I found out about the Bank on Yourself model probably a couple months ago. And so when your staff reached out to me, when I looked up what you did, I was like, this is perfect because I really want to hear more about this and how to actually get involved. Because even in the whole theme of breaking cycles, we get into these cyclical behaviors of
Mhm,
how we think about money, how we think about our time, how we leverage our assets, whether they be just
mhm,
your time, your skill, whatever it is. And I don't think that it's serving us as much as we think it is. I think it feels comfortable because
mhm,
you watched your dad do it, or your
mhm.
mom do it, or your grandma do it, but it doesn't mean that it's really helpful. So I'm just incredibly interested in this topic. What made you so interested in financial and the work that you do in the financial field, whether it is educating or helping people protect their assets? When did that start for you? Have you always just been really interested in this kind of stuff since you were younger? Did you kind of grow into this skill over time? Like what started that?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I pretty much, I think I've always been a financial planner, even when I was like a freshman in high school. Like I've always loved the idea of money, and not just money as like from a materialistic standpoint, money as
Right,
a solution, as a tool. Because a lot of people, most people's problems in life relate to money or financial reasons. Most
right,
divorces are because of financial reasons.
right.
Most stress comes from financial reasons. Most health conditions come from financial reasons. So it's such a
Mm,
big impact on a human life.
yeah.
And I started thinking, if you could be a problem solver to that, then you could contribute to people's lives. You can save marriages, you could save health, you could save the stress, you could save people's businesses and their kind of their sanity behind that. And that's what kind of really drew me. It's more of the problem solving aspect behind it, of like
Yeah.
connecting the bridge to people. Whether it's money or something else, it just happens to be money. That's the kind of the bridge between it. So that's kind of where I realized that's what I wanted to do, is just to kind of be that problem solver. And then once I came across this concept, the infinite banking concept, and being able to grow money and still have access to it, and also not have to rely on the stock market or anything else outside of your
Right.
control, I figured
Right.
this would be spot on. This is spot on for helping people. And I want to build like a legacy around this. This is why I'm doing all these podcasting. I'm kind of talking about this concept because I want to spread the word. I want everybody to utilize this strategy to show them how to kind of break the habits or break the cycles of conventional thinking or conventional wisdom when it comes to financial planning. Because, and I'll get into more of this, I don't think conventional wisdom goes hand in hand with financial planning. Financial planning is more of a counterintuitive, it's more of unlearning than it is learning, and breaking cycles
Mm.
and breaking habits.
That's interesting. I've never heard anybody talk about finances that way. You said that financial literacy is more about unlearning
Uh-huh.
than
Mhm.
learning. That is very, very, that's a great way to put that
Mhm.
because I've just seen and I've experienced, you trying to figure out new ways to do things. And for myself, I was never, really taught in school or even in my family what to do with money,
Mhm.
how to really manage money because none of us really had money. So that
Mhm.
was not really a discussion for you growing up. Was money a subject that was super comfortable for you in your household? Is this something that you kind of were like, listen, because it sounds to me you're a people person and you use financial literacy, you use financial planning to get to the people. Because just the way that you're speaking about, the impact that finances has on your everyday life. And so, is that something that was really well discussed in your home, or is this something that you just started to put the dots together based off of your desire to help and problem solve?
It was discussed, but it wasn't, I think, discussed properly. That's the difference. So it was talked about a lot growing up, but it wasn't strategic. It wasn't planned out, and that's kind of what drew me into the industry. Is that there was no strategy behind money, or thinking, or planning, or
Mm,
budgeting, any of those things. And you're right. We're not taught about this in school. I think we should be. I think instead of taking classes on art and humanities and history, we should take courses on math and building wealth and protecting it, and more on an unconventional basis. For example, we're taught in school, you save up money in a bank account, and then after as you get older and you start having a little bit extra money, you talk to a financial advisor. They put it in a mutual fund, they put it in the bank, and they kind of invest it. And we've seen, based off of what happened in the Great Depression, what happened in the year 2000, what happened in 2008, and what happened during COVID. We've seen all these cycles of that's not the way to go. That's not the way to go of growing wealth, is not putting money in mutual funds or in the stock market and just letting it sit there and letting other people invest that money in a volatile area. You're letting people invest that money who can't control the market, who can't control or predict it anyway. No matter how many degrees they have or licenses or certifications they have in the stock market related industry, they don't know what's going to happen in the stock market. And we're taught that this is normal, like that you're supposed to just, don't worry about the stock market. Risk. Give it, exactly. Take the risk, give it to the financial advisor, let them just cut them a check every month and then let them do all the work. And there are better ways. And I'm not 100% anti-stock market. I just think there are better ways to grow wealth. And one of my favorite things about this concept is you don't have to take unnecessary risks, because there's a difference between that, Kibwe, right? We take risks every day, especially as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as investors. Everybody takes risks, and we should be taking calculated, necessary risks that are needed. But there's a huge difference between that and unnecessary risks. Like, for example, when you drive your car, that's taking a risk. But you don't take unnecessary risks. You don't speed. You wear your seatbelt. You obey traffic laws, because you want to mitigate the risk of driving. So it's not an either or function. It's both and. You're still going to drive, but you're still going to mitigate the risk. And the same thing with financial planning. You're still taking risks, but you're applying risk mitigation tools in the middle of that, so that way you're not taking 100% risk on everything you're doing.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Because for growing up, for me, we learned how to budget certain things, but I mean that was pretty much the extent of everything, and we just didn't. There just wasn't that much conversation around that stuff. And so it's really interesting to hear you say that. And for myself, I think it's very important culturally, especially for Black and brown people, to understand how to control their money, because that is something that, just like you said, it affects everything else you do in life, whether it's your startup, whether it's, your family's legacy, whether it's owning homes and property and assets. It always goes back to that. And because we have I think we have a different philosophy on finances, right? Or maybe a lack of a philosophy. I'm not sure how it is in your community, but I think for sure in Black and brown communities, I think it's not a discussion that we have as cohesively as possible.
Yeah, I agree. My family are immigrants. They immigrated from the Middle East, and like a lot of other immigrants, when it comes to money, it's more of a necessity, and it's more of now today. Like today, it's more of short-term planning, and it's kind of again a necessity. Whereas people who have been in the United States for multi-generations, especially like longer generations, have more of long-term planning when it comes to money. They're thinking of real estate, thinking of legacy. They're thinking of the next generation. They're thinking of the next generation when they're in their 40s already. 30s or 40s. They're thinking of their grandkids and the following. And I think that the brown and Black communities are on that path. We're on that path to getting to the next generation. It's just based off of probably the last 20 or 30 years. There was kind of a distant gap between financial planning more on a short-term and a long-term basis. Again, and I know this from my history, it's more of short-term necessity and kind of really tight budgeting, of course, due to the income gaps of
Absolutely. It's like all survival mode. You can't plan when you're in survival mode.
Exactly. And even if you do plan, you think it's not necessary, when in reality it's the opposite of that. Even when you're in your lowest point financially, that's when you need to plan the most.
Oh, see, that's that unlearning. Yeah. That's awesome. So I'll get into the questions now, because I don't want to keep you too long. What's one of the first things you think about when you think of breaking cycles? I think some people, I think there's a lot of buzz around that. And I think for older generations, that feels very, very disruptive. And I think they are somewhat defensive about that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's a bad thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think people, when it comes to change, they think it's a bad thing. And when it comes to breaking cycles, that's more of habit and tradition kind of wrapped together and intertwined together. So when you try to break those cycles, what you're saying is, hey, all the things that your parents and grandparents told you, change that. And then now
Mm,
it's like you're insulting their parents and their grandparents, when in
mm,
reality you're helping them, because it's okay to say, my parents are wrong about money. That's okay to say that. A lot of parents are wrong. A lot of grandparents are wrong when it comes to financial planning. Because think about it, how would everybody know all these things about financial planning? And so it's changing the habits, changing the cycles. And for every habit you change or unlearn, you're adding a new habit that you're creating. So it's like saying, for example, let's say you want to make it a habit to go running or go to the gym every single day. For a lot of people who are starting that, it's going to be uncomfortable. Every day, they're going
yeah,
to have to put on their shoes. They have to put on, go
yeah.
running, go to the gym. And then as you keep doing that, you build a habit. Now the opposite happens. Now, not going to the gym or not running becomes
Feels
uncomfortable, becomes
awkward.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So you want to get on that other side, the awkward side. So you're breaking a habit to get a new habit. That's the
yeah.
cycle. So instead of going from, it's weird to find it, to always have a budgeting plan, have a financial plan. If you own a business, have a business plan, have all these planning things, learning about money. It's uncomfortable. And then once you do it, now it's uncomfortable, the opposite. It's uncomfortable to spend
Right.
money, recklessly anymore. It's
Yeah.
uncomfortable to not have numerous bank accounts. It's uncomfortable to not read books about business anymore, or to listen to podcasts about business and making money and keeping money. So you want to get onto that other side of the habit. So you're breaking a habit to gain a new habit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, really great that you say that, because I mean it really goes down to your habits, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you know, the it takes the joy out of doing
Mm-hmm.
stuff. You know, once you become more aware, once you have
Mm-hmm.
more knowledge, it really takes the joy out of doing certain things. Like I can't, just go out and have fun like I used to. My brain is working too much,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's not that I can't enjoy myself, but just like you said, there's always something ticking in the background, that's just trying to help you stay aware,
Yep.
because especially the longer you're working for things and the more you're sacrificing for things, you're trying to keep every little bit of everything that you can. And for myself, I'm always looking for more strategies, because I realize I don't have the knowledge base sometimes. Like I know what I know. I'm a audio engineer, video
Mm-hmm.
engineer. I know what I know, but that is not finances. That is not, how to be your own bank and stuff. So that I think this is really, really interesting. Do you think we need to take a very active approach to breaking cycles, or do you think that just kind of happens over time? We discussed a little bit how, gradually black and brown people are understanding money more.
Mm-hmm.
We're understanding what it means to actually be strategic with our finances, not just
Mm-hmm.
survive and keep our kids safe and our house, paid
Mm-hmm.
for and things like that, which is all great,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not playing the long game. So
Mm-hmm.
would you say that, there's a gradual approach that feels less intrusive when it comes to breaking cycles, or is this something that we just have to learn to adapt to and just keep moving?
Yeah, yeah. So one of my hobbies that I do, I answer this kind of differently. One of my hobbies that I like to do, I like to box. And I was at the
Okay.
gym, and there was a boxing coach holding pads for me. And then he was like, all right, when I throw this jab, you move to your right. And I moved, and then he's like, okay, you moved too far. He's like, boxing is a game of inches, not miles. It's
Mm,
and then I think that's related here, that when we're changing these habits and changing these, it's a game of inches. It's not tomorrow I'm going to be completely different. Tomorrow I'm going to be I'm going to understand money. I'm going to save money. I'm going to have retirement accounts. I'm going to leave a legacy. I'm going to have life insurance. It's a game of inches. Every day we're just going to do one step differently every single day. Starting, I'm going
mm,
to read a book. I'm going to watch this podcast. I'm going to listen to this podcast. I'm going to watch this YouTube channel. I'm going to just do one thing at a time every single day until I make those complete changes. So it's a game of inches, not a game of miles. We're doing small increments of small changes as we go. We don't have to change our entire generation, our entire lives today,
yeah.
because you can't. And it's going
Yeah.
to have gradual changes. That, I think, was the connection between boxing and this.
That is a really, really great analogy. It's a game of inches, not miles. And I think that's what trips us up, right? Because we are oftentimes, like I said, we're surviving. We're keeping our families safe. We're not thinking about
Mm-hmm.
the inches.
Mm-hmm.
We're you know what I'm saying? And so that's a really good, that's a great way to put that. Wow. Okay. Okay. So what are some limiting beliefs that you've realized about your clients when you're working with people and you're helping them gain inches, right? You're helping them understand the inches to miles philosophy. You should write a book on that called Inches to Miles. Anyway, because that was such a great way to think about that, man. I think for myself, even you saying that, which is gave me a lot of clarity on how to think about what you're doing with your money. It's like it's not about big moves. It's just
Mhm.
about instituting small practices that compound over time.
Mhm.
So that's really dope. But what are some limiting beliefs that you've run into? Because I can only imagine in the finance world, you have people who may have great intentions or great work ethic and things like that, but their own beliefs about what they can do limit the questions they ask, limit the ideas they have for themselves, and then sometimes I'm sure can probably interrupt your ability to help them the way you want to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, one limiting belief is the idea that your money could only do one thing for you. So, for example, I'll illustrate a solution for a client, and I'll show them that if you put in X amount of dollars over the next 10 years, you'll have X amount of dollars growing for the rest of your life and compounding. And then their first thought is, well, what if I put that money in real estate? Or what if I put that money in the stock market? Or what if I invested that money in my business? I would probably get a higher rate of return than investing in this solution. And then my response to that is this is not an either or situation. It's not either this strategy, the bank on yourself strategy, or real estate investing or the stock market. Rather, I'm showing you how to do this so that way you can leverage more investments and other types of investments while still having something to rely on. It's back to the unnecessary risks and back to the risk mitigation tool.
Mm.
We're using this as a tool. So instead of you going out and directly taking money from your bank account and investing in real estate, we're going to take your money from your bank account, put it in a policy, your own self-banking policy, your own whole life insurance policy that you own and control and earns dividends and earns compound interest. In there, you're going to put the money there, and then from those cash reserves, borrow against it, and then use that for real estate investing. Why? Because when you do it that way, your money grows in two places. It grows in the whole life policy and it grows in real estate. Also, if something happens in the real estate industry, you still have your whole life policy to fall back on. Plus, you can reinvest that money. You could pay back the loan and then reinvest it in other business opportunities. You can't do all these things from cash to cash deals, straight from your bank account to other deals. Rather, instead, if you have it going into a whole life policy that you control, and then you could earn interest on it and then leverage those dollars, you could apply them in different places. So the limiting belief here is that your money could only be in one place at one time. And that's not true. You can have your money in numerous places, earning you interest and dividends on your money at the same time, growing it in numerous areas. And this is what we encourage. We encourage our clients to utilize their policy, not only to just get a policy, but to also utilize the policy in connection with other types of investments.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm super interested in that. What's the biggest problem that people have as far as like implementing these inches to miles philosophies and understanding that, you can do more than one thing. Like what's a problem? So you have the belief,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
And once you get them past that, they're like, okay, that's great. This is a good idea. I'm going to do this. Now, when they're trying to implement these things,
mhm.
save this amount of money, stay consistent. What's an issue that you run into in regards to that? Because I know for myself, I'll just give you a
Mhm.
small example. I have many times started the process well, maybe not many times, a couple times though, started the process of life insurance, but I really didn't understand what it
Mhm.
was. I understood what it was, but I didn't understand how I could leverage it, and I didn't even know what the right questions to ask about it were when I got it. So I didn't value it correctly, and I let the policy lapse and all that other kind of stuff. But the implementation of this is what kept throwing me off because I'm like, I'm not connecting the mental dots here. And so if you don't really know, how can you really
Mhm.
implement? Do you have clients who understand the full picture, but they just can't save money, or understand the full picture, but they just can't be consistent? Or like, what's the most common thing you'll run into in terms of people wanting that?
So I think so. My mentor told me that if you understand the concept, the details don't matter. And if
Mm,
you don't understand the concept, then the details don't matter. So it's all about the concept, understanding the concept. So when people are like, yeah, this is all looks really good, but I just want to do this, in the next 10 years, not now. they don't understand the concept. When somebody says this all looks really good, but I don't know if I could put in $500 a month, they don't understand the concept, because all of these things are helping them financially. And their objection to it is, this is going to financially hurt me, meaning that they don't understand, they don't see my
Mm.
picture, they don't see what I'm trying to say. And there's nothing wrong with it. It takes time to understand this concept, which is why we recommend that our clients and prospects read a couple books. They read The Bank on Yourself Revolution by Pamela Yellen. They read Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. They listen to podcasts and YouTube shows about infinite banking and Bank on Yourself to understand the concept first. We're not going to a store and buying an over-the-counter product and when how nice that product looks. We're buying a future lifestyle. We're buying something that's long term, that's hard to reach and touch. And a lot of people think that long term is too long term. It's out of their reach and it doesn't matter today. And that's a huge problem, is that it does. Your future is it's what you're doing today. And especially in financial planning, it's what you're growing. And especially with compound interest, if you have the opportunity to earn compound interest, you want to do that yesterday. You want to do that as soon as
Right.
possible, to earn you want time on your side when it comes to compound interest, that's kind of a struggle. And then for other people, they see it. Other people kind of see, all right, 20 years from now, I'll be 60 years old. All right, I need this. I need X amount of dollars in retirement, so that way I could have it alongside my 401k, and I'll have Social Security, and they'll start doing all this planning, and they're like, okay, this is gonna be perfect. I want to do this. And then It's actually
Wow.
crazy, because when people understand the concept, now the table turns. Now they're saying, all right, let's do this policy, and then in 6 months, let's do this other policy, and then another 6 months, let's do this. So like they're now in control. And of course, it's
Yeah. That's amazing because you get that shift there,
Mhm.
and then I bet that collaboration with you working with them gets way more fun because now you're not explaining things. Now you're really cooking. You know what I mean?
Now I'm an order taker. All right, what are you? Okay, I'm just putting in the order now.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, man. So, for yourself, what was the hardest thing you had to do when you were breaking your own cycle? When you were, because I'm sure the more that you get into your craft, your gift, you're gonna encounter opposition, whether it's from
Mhm.
your family or somebody else. People are going to be they're gonna look at you differently,
Mhm.
which is all a part of growth, right?
Mhm.
But what was one of the frustrating parts for you? What when you were breaking your cycle from being in a family that didn't think about money that way, to now constantly, I'm sure, trying to talk to your family about this and that, and people
Yeah.
ignoring you and being like, "Oh, here he goes," talking about this stuff again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened yesterday, actually. Yeah, my brother was like, "Yeah, I don't get it. Why you're so against the stock market? People make a lot of money in the stock market." And I was like, "Yes, but they're gambling. They're not doing that by knowing exactly what's going to happen." And he's like, "No, people do know what they're doing in the stock market. People do know how." And then I said, "Okay, well, if they know how, if they know what they're doing, then how do people still lose money in the stock market? How did in 2008, half of America lose lose their retirement accounts in the stock market? These accounts are ran by people who have PhDs and master's degrees in computer science and economics and quantitative finance, and they still make mistakes. So what makes you think that everyday people know what they're doing in the stock market?"
Ooh, ooh, I bet he didn't like that.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
hilarious.
Yeah, so I do have those arguments and uncomfortable discussions with family almost all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I really enjoy entrepreneurship. Like, so I started it. Well, I'm learning entrepreneurship, right? So before, when I started out just having a bunch of jobs, like ever since I was like 16 years old, I had like 2, 3 jobs all the time. Went through college, same thing. I had like 2, 3 jobs, worked a full-time job while I was taking 18 credit hours, just because I knew that I had to take care of myself. And that was just the hustler in
Hmm.
me. And now I'm learning to create systems that will make money for me, even though I've only done something one time. So I
Hmm.
create digital products, and I'm monetizing different things that I do, so that I don't have to be out here hand to hand
Hmm.
hustling for gigs or for contracts or stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so I'm always talking about this kind of stuff. Like, I'm always
Hmm.
thinking about it. This is what I want to do. I view this as freedom to live the life I want to live. But when you talk about this to your family, all the time. They just start to tune you out and they just be annoyed. I had a friend of mine, her name is Lolita. She was actually on the podcast. She's a really awesome entrepreneur out in Chicago. She said, stop talking to people about it. Your family is not on that. So just don't talk to them about it. And it don't mean you don't love them. It just means you can't talk to them about this. Have you
Mhm.
reached a point where, you're like, well, I can't beat you guys into doing anything. I want you to take these steps because I can see farther down the field than you do, even though I'm
Mhm.
little brother, or even though
Yeah.
I'm just your child, or
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you, but you don't understand where I'm coming from. Do you run into that a lot? Today is the day, and now is the time. If you have a good idea, good intentions, and are looking for a way to get audience and to get your great message out to the world, I encourage you to start your very own podcast. You would be surprised the amount of folks who are waiting to hear your content. My name is Kibwe Cooper, and I have been an audio engineer for the past 7 years, and I am offering one-on-one coaching to help you get through the beginning stages of creating your very own podcast. Please reach out to me and let me know how I can help you. My email address is empoweryoupodcast@gmail.com. We offer one-on-one coaching, a live masterclass, and even a 10-module course that will take you through the entire process of creating, producing, and distributing your podcast to your very own listeners. This is a great avenue to connect with your audience and to connect with people who are in need of your voice. Again, reach out to me at empoweryoupodcast@gmail.com and let's get your podcast started today.
Yeah, so that's a good question, and it's kind of like a two-way part. One part is I part of me does want to kind of like I do kind of chill out on talking about it so much that I kind of like tone it down, and then also it's kind of that logical twist where it's like if you really do think this is beneficial for other people, then don't you think it's beneficial for the people closest to you? And then vice versa. If you don't think it's beneficial for them, then you probably don't think it's beneficial for other people. So I still
Right.
stick to that. And I still kind of make the arguments with close family that this is the right way to go. And then, I see this from clients. I work with clients on a daily basis, people who invested in mutual funds, who lost a lot of money, people who went through hardships, who lost their businesses, who didn't have any cash reserves, people who had lines of credit with banks and then the banks cut them off without any notice and they couldn't get any more funding. Now I've seen all these problems happen. So it is almost like I'm just looking into the future because my clients also, I'm 31 years old, but my clients are in their 50s and 60s, so they've gone, so they tell me what worked and what hasn't worked in their lives.
Yeah.
So I get to see like a preview of the future. And it's going to be pretty similar for a lot of people. We're still going to rely on lines of credit for the banks. We're still going to rely on mutual funds and brokerage accounts. We're still going to rely on banks to help us and Wall Street to help us. So it's still going to be there. And I'm trying to explain to people like that there's a better way to do that. There's a way where you don't need Wall Street, you don't need banks. You can take control of your financial lives, And again, it's back to the inches. I'm not saying invest all your money today with us. I'm saying read this book, check out this podcast, understand this, look at this concept, check this out, just like small bits and pieces here until it sinks in. And then you guys are ready to do whatever it is what you want to do.
Yeah. It's those inches, man. It's those
Yeah.
inches. That was a bomb analogy you gave earlier. I think that's
Thank you.
really, really great. Oh man. So how do you start this process? Well, what's for somebody who has absolutely no idea, and for any of you listeners who are just like, I really am not interested in this. You all are doing too much.
Mhm.
How do you start this process and so that we have a really full understanding of it? And I want you to talk a little bit about how that will impact your life because for many of us, if we don't understand how it's going to help do something, we don't want any part of it. And I
Mhm.
don't blame anyone because, time is constantly very,
Mhm.
very limited.
Mhm.
And so we have to evaluate what we do based off of the time and the benefits of it. So for those of you who are listening, let's just try to tune in real tight here so
Mhm.
that we can understand not only this system,
Mhm.
but then also how it's going to affect us and maybe alleviate some of the problems we're already having. So,
So the process kind of, and this is how it's going to help a lot of people. So the first step is we just do like an intro call. That's where we kind of just get to know each other, and I can explain the concept in detail during that call. I can kind of break it down, just kind of an intro call, and then after that we do a financial analysis call. The second call. This is the most important piece ever, the financial analysis call, because it's 60 to 90 minutes long, and it's just me asking questions. I'm asking, what does retirement mean to you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you see yourself in 20 years? What kind of retirement accounts are you already implementing? Are you investing in real estate? What kind of real estate do you want to invest in? Do you have a side business? Is it a full-time business? All these questions financially related. And it's not just numbers, like how much money do you have, not just financially related. It's also conceptual. So it's, what does the word money mean to you? What does the word lifestyle mean to you? What are all these words mean to you? And then what happens with clients is almost 100% of the time, clients say, nobody's ever asked me that question before. And then after that, I think that after that meeting, it changes them. Even if they don't do any policy with us, even if they don't proceed to the next steps with us, it changes them, because that was probably the first time they were asked those questions, open-ended.
Yeah.
And it's not a business class in school. There's no grade for this. It's what they believe is right in their hearts. And that's the point, is that everybody has different philosophies when it comes to money. But we want to understand, what's your philosophy. And then when you have the ability to talk about, or kind of open up and talk about these kind of things and your plan, you're more likely to get them. You get what you think about in your mind. Everything you're doing today and everything you're seeing is because you're thinking about it in your life. So if you're seeing downturns and downsides, it's because you're thinking about that. Deep down, that's what you're thinking about. That's what you're expecting. And then vice versa. If you're making millions of dollars today in your life, that's also because you're thinking about that. You're planning on that. You've envisioned millions of dollars before you've actually made it. These are real things. A person is who he thinks about all day long. You are what you think about all day long. And that the financial analysis helps you make that plan. So if you say, all right, in the next 5 years, I want X amount of dollars. In the next 10 years, I want X amount of dollars. You're going to get those figures because you're thinking about them. You're programming your subconscious mind to do things in your life, to make certain decisions that will help you get to your goals that you're setting. The financial analysis is the most important piece. And then after that, we do the personalized solution. That's where we structure a policy based off of what you mentioned in the analysis. So we connect it that way, so it's relevant. So it's not only a good solution, it's good to you. It's specific to you, and it's going to help you improve your financial situation.
That's great. That's his game, man. He said, you are what you think about. And the intention that you place by saying things out loud changes your everyday actions. So one of the things that I always say is I try to give easy to execute principles, exercises, strategies, because I think we overcomplicate things a lot. I'm a really deep thinker, so I overcomplicate my life a lot. And so I automatically assume other people overcomplicate things too. So the idea that first you have to decide what you want, and then build your plan around that, because that changes your actions. So for anybody listening, I want you to think about, while you're driving, while you're listening to this, just think about, let your mind roll about what it is that you want. What is money, finances, success, freedom looks like for you. And if you've never really thought about that, maybe you need to sit down and write some things down. Because the first step is acknowledgement. I think that's amazing, man. So now, once you're setting up their plan, do you see a lot of drop off? Do you see people unwilling to commit, or you think once they get past that process, if they've done that, they stick to it?
No, so if going from the financial analysis to the solution, I see that a 100% rate. So 100% of people make it from the financial analysis to the solution preparation, where we present the solution. We do it over screen share, and we share the screen. We show, like, over Zoom, like, this is what happens if you put in X amount of dollars. This is how the growth of it will happen. This is how it could help you in your life, specifically to them. I see a 100% transition from there. Now, when it comes to the solution, to implementing it, there's obviously going to be drop off there, like in anything else, because people might not be ready, or they don't understand the concept fully. That's fine. We're always around for those constant questions and those constant material too. We want you to learn about this material and understand it, because it will help you in your life if you understand this concept and understand how it works, and the idea of always keeping every dollar you're making. So you earn $1 in one hand, you spend it in the other hand, but between earning it and spending it, you're going to put it somewhere that's going to earn you interest. So it's almost like putting it through this machine that you own, this own banking system that you own, and then you get to spend it afterwards. That changes everything, because now it's not a matter of, do I make enough money for this? It's just a matter of making some money that you can allocate to it. And again, it's all about concept. I'm saying all this because I believe in the concept and I understand the concept,
Yeah.
but clients also, once they understand this concept, then they also take the wheel and then they start doing this on their own.
That's amazing, man. Wow. Without giving any names, tell me about a success story.
Yeah.
I want to hear the results.
Yeah, definitely. So, I have a client that she's thinking about quitting from her job, but she's worried about, because she has a 401k, and she's worried that she won't have some sort of retirement solution because she's not going to be at the job anymore. So she wants to kind of have her own internal retirement account, something that she's going to own. So I set up a policy for her. It's a 30-year policy where she's going to put in like $5,000 a year. And then by retirement, I forget what the numbers were, but it was like something ridiculous. By the time she's in retirement, she'll have like $600,000 in retirement. And she's literally so excited about this because now she doesn't have to rely on her job for retirement. She could make money now, business related stuff, side hustles, digital marketing. She's good at that, but she's just worried about where does her money sit and grow every single year without having to rely on a job.
Yeah.
And without having to rely on the stock market too. And then this is kind of like a perfect solution for her. Again, I would have never known any of these things without the financial analysis. But ask her questions about her job, about her side hustle, about what the things she knows and the things she does. We were able to do this, and it was like a perfect fit. And then also because she's on board too, because since she understands this concept, it was a nice match. It was a good match that, after 30 years, she'll have X amount of dollars guaranteed also, because the insurance companies we use guarantee returns on the projections. It's not speculation. It's not if the market does really well. It's guaranteed. And that's what we want to show our clients, is that it's possible. It's possible to have guaranteed returns and guaranteed growth in a savings plan. So that's what we did. And that was actually a really fascinating thing. And it kind of also gave us a lot of momentum too, that this is actually like, people appreciate this. It's not just a sale. It's actually an appreciation that it's changing their lives.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Oh my goodness. I need to get my plan together. I really, really, really do. That's awesome. So, for anybody who is now, they're kind of oversaturated, right? You've listened to it, you've heard, you're thinking about these cycles that we get into, that affect our everyday, because, when people pass away, when your family dynamic changes, when people have children, or they decide they need to move, or they lose a job. A lot of people lost a job in this pandemic. What I'm hoping that people understand, and what I'm hoping as our listeners understand, is that these are very closely related things. And the more we depend on systems like your job or whatever, the more at the mercy of those institutions you are, because their bottom line is to make money, not to take care of you and your family. So these what you're saying is just super, super, super valuable. What's one action that people can take to start this process? Something really manageable, doesn't give you an anxiety, to start this process.
Okay, so I'll answer this, but I want to go back to real quick something you mentioned about relying on banks. So Mark Twain said that a banker is a fellow who will loan you an umbrella when it's sunny out, but wants it back the second it starts raining. Meaning banks only deal with you because you have money, and the second you don't have money, banks want nothing to do with you.
Right.
So, and then to answer the second part of the question is, how do we take small actions, small bits and pieces? Again, inches. Just take out a piece of. I do this every single day. So since I'm an entrepreneur, I'm self-employed. One of my problems for me personally is I get distracted with new opportunities. That was one of my reasons why I wasn't successful 5 years ago starting a business, but I've learned from that. And one of the things I do is every morning I take something, it's called a priority recap. I write the date and I just write a couple sentences. What's my main focus? What's my overall objective? Like I want to grow this, financial services practice. I want to spread, and I want to be on 1,000 podcasts. I want to help 1,000 people build these policies. And I write that every single day, because I don't want to get sidetracked with any other opportunities. Again, I'm programming my subconscious mind. I'm saying to myself where I want to go exactly. And again, I'm not talking about a whole business plan, whole blueprint. I'm talking about just a few sentences every single day, identifying your objective. And you want to do this every single day, and you want to write it out every single day. You don't want to just read it. You want to just write it out. You want to write it out every single day, so you memorize it and it's embedded in your subconscious mind and you know it. So to help the audience, they can do the same thing. Whatever it is that you want to do, write it down. And again, it doesn't have to be in full detail. It can just be 2 or 3 sentences. I want to, and then you make sure you write the words I want, I will, and I am, because you want to make it like not presumptuous, but you want to make it like certain that it's going to happen. I will, I want, I am, I will start, a business. I will become a millionaire by this age. I want, and I want this because I want financial freedom. You want to do these things.
Oh my goodness. Ooh, that's amazing. That's dope. I'm going to start doing that. I've been reading this book by Gary Keller called The One Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about building a success list versus a to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And I was speaking about this earlier, just like focusing on that one thing that you need to accomplish every day, rather than having a long to-do list, which never really gets done anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. I think that's a great analogy. For anybody who's listening to this, I really hope you're taking this seriously, because you're 31, right?
Yes.
These are things that at 31 he has developed in order to get where he is today, so that he can share this information with you. So let's not brush it off, because we have to start doing new things in order to break old cycles. And all of us are tired of, running out of money. All of us are tired of waiting on our credit score to go up. All of us are tired of trying to apply for loans and grants and stuff. And so we have to start doing new things in order to find new solutions. So before we wrap up, because I know we're getting close to time, at this point in the show, we always do a thought exercise. And I know you've been giving away all kinds of game, but I want just a little bit more. And and if you have a thought exercise for us, man, would love to hear it, and really benefit from it, and you and your time, man. So floor is yours, brother.
Yeah. So thought exercise. Okay. So with thinking a lot, another problem I have is I think too much. I'm like a visionary, and I'm over planning, over committing, over and under delivering, of course, over committing, over planning, and just thinking of so many ideas. So what I do is I, especially back to the to-do list, I match that to a calendar. So if I write a task down, I identify how long it's going to take, and then I put that into a calendar bracket. And if it can't meet that, then I chop it out completely and I just move it on to the next day. I only do I figured that less is more. So doing a few really good tasks every single day is better than just doing, writing down 1,000 things that are just kind of almost pointless and overwriting. So, and then I do this too. Another thing too, is that you don't manage time, you manage energy. So remember that. So you're managing time, not energy. Think about sometimes, have you ever noticed that sometimes you don't have time for somebody else? And
all the time.
But you actually probably do. You do have the time. You probably just don't have the energy for that person.
Oh, okay. I see.
So that relates also to entrepreneurship and being a business owner, is that you need to manage your energy, and you don't want to do certain things that drain your energy or drain. And I'm not even talking about other people. I'm also talking about yourself too. So for example, if you're on YouTube, but then all of a sudden an hour goes by and you just feel really weak and tired, it's because you wasted your energy on that. It took a lot of your energy, and social media has an effect on people. It takes a lot of their energy away from them, making things like entrepreneurship and focusing really hard. So you need to manage your energy properly. And there's things you could do to manage your energy, like sleeping well, working out, not overwhelming yourself. You want to my mentor told me, he's like, your brain is a good idea maker, but it's not a good storage. It's not a good library. It's a terrible library to store ideas in. So you want to be able to move things out of your brain and put them in different places. It's almost like you're emptying things out of your brain because you don't want it to sit there. You don't want the stress of it sitting there. So I use a calendar. I have a CRM that I put all my clients in and prospects in and podcast hosts in. I have checklists. I use a Trello board. Trello is a really cool software for managing projects, and I put everything in there. So I'm taking everything out of my brain and putting it on paper because I don't want it to sit there. I know if it sits there,
Yeah.
I'm going to get too overwhelmed. It's going to drain a lot of my energy. So there's kind of some quick things and tips on brain activities.
That's awesome. Write it down. Get a Trello board. Yeah, I've heard about that. I haven't
Yeah,
ever used it. I got to check that out.
yeah.
Trello. That's awesome. Man, you have really been super helpful, man. How can people find you, get a hold of you, schedule their calls? Because I want to see results in your life. I want to see my listeners do and break cycles because we can't sustain our current way of living. That's why we're seeking. So many of us in today's world are seeking, and it's because we realize what our parents told us, what your
Mm-hmm.
grandparents told you, is just not working. And maybe it never worked. Maybe it only worked for their generation, but we're seeking. And so, how can people find you? How can people interact with you? And you said you got a podcast coming out too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Tell
yeah.
us about
The name
this.
of the yeah, thank you. The name of the podcast is Thinking Like a Bank. And we show pretty much people how to think like a bank using the same strategies and principles that banks use to help them find more financial freedom in their life. So pretty much it's like just to think, it's not how to start a bank. It's more of just the thinking process of what banks use. And so far we've done about 4 episodes so far total. A lot of real estate investors are on, and pretty much I'd love to have you on as a guest in the
Oh,
future.
awesome. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
yeah, definitely. And then listeners can also reach us at finassetprotection.com. It's FIN assetprotection.com. They can schedule a free appointment. And plus, I'll throw in a freebie. I'll give them a free book if they reach out to us. Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. I'll send them a free copy. They don't have to schedule an appointment. They could just reach out to us, ask for the free book, and I'll send them the free book.
That's awesome, man. Listen, I appreciate you, man. You're showing a lot of love right now. Thank you so much, bro.
Thank
Really,
you, Kid
really
Boy. Thanks for
appreciate
having
it,
me on.
man. Yeah. So, to any of those people who are listening, this is Sari Ibrahim, and you can reach out to him and schedule your call, get your free book, and let's really start breaking these cycles, evaluating these things, these tendencies that we have, so that we can get a little bit better. It's all about progression. We have the
Mm-hmm.
time, we have the tools, we just have to apply them. So,
Mm-hmm.
thank you again, man. Is there anything you want to say before you dip out?
No, Kid Boy, I had a blast. I appreciate all the questions. I appreciate your audience. Thank you so much for having me on, and I look forward to reconnecting with you and the audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. To anybody listening, peace and love. Take care of yourselves. I will talk to you a little later. Peace. Empower You podcast is devoted to bringing real world wisdom and encouragement to our listeners. We discuss a multitude of life principles and the process from an economic, cultural, and societal perspective. We believe that through tough conversations and shared wisdom, we can pave the path and leave a ladder for the future. Subscribe to our channel and let us empower you.